Hello, my name is Samantha Birdie, and I'm going to be doing my final project on Beau is Afraid. So, Beau is Afraid is a surrealist, confusing, and wildly creative film released in 2023 about an introverted man that goes on a few unexpected journeys to break him out of his comfort zone and effectively traumatize him on the way to find his mother. Beau is a very anxious and non confrontational man that is put into all kinds of horrifying circumstances, and it feels like his bad luck will never end. This film is directed by Ari Aster, with the director of cinematography being Paweł Pogorzelski. The music is composed by Bobby Krylik, who collaborated with Ari Aster on Midsummer, and edited by Lucian Johnston. The movie was confusing for a lot of people, receiving harsh reviews online from people that claimed that Ari Aster was drunk or on acid when making this movie. Personally, though, I love weird movies, so this was right up my alley, and I loved how quote unquote directionless and wild it was. But please bear with me as I try to describe this movie because it truly is all over the place. It got a lot of negative reviews online, but I personally thought that it was incredible. So we're going to start with framing and composition. At 41:30, we see a tilted image. Throughout the film, there are short scenes that are Beau's recurring dream about being in the bath, watching a younger version of himself and his mother arguing. The edge of the bathtub is a little tilted, making it obvious that he is dreaming. This is because tilted images are associated with disorientation and creates a sense of instability or vertigo, meaning that the tilted image is a representation of something beyond typical consciousness, aka his dream. At 49:31, we see a figure ground gestalt principle. Moving further into the film, Beau has woken up from being knocked out for a couple of days post car accident and finding out his mother died shortly before getting into that car accident. For context, Beau finds out his mother dies and then takes a bath where a man falls out of his bathtub onto him, and then Beau runs out into the street screaming naked. Then he wakes up after getting in a car accident in a seemingly well-meaning family's home. He needs to make a phone call to his lawyer, so he goes outside and sits on a chair. In the background, there is a figure ground gestalt principle where there is a man who was in the army with the family's dead son and now lives outside of the family's house in a trailer who is running around trying to shush Beau, and I hope that makes sense. The scene creates depth with relations to the foreground and background. It makes it seem as though something is bigger at play with this man. At 57:39, we see radial balance. Beau is still in this family's house and he's trying to leave, but unforeseen circumstances from the parents of the family he's staying with keep preventing him from leaving. There are several different shots of the family in the kitchen talking to Beau in the dining room that are examples of the radial balance of the scene. There are several different shots of the family in the kitchen talking to Beau in the dining room that are examples of the radial balance of the scene, which serves the purpose of drawing your attention to the middle of the frame, as well as to make you feel more calm because the scene is balanced. Moving on to color, we start with hue and color attributes at 44 minutes and 5 seconds. When Beau first wakes up in this family's home, he's in their daughter's room, made obvious by all of her bedding, belongings, and her walls being pink, which symbolizes innocence, sweetness, and playfulness. When Grace, the mom, walks in to check on Beau, the scene seems to appear brighter when a rainbow from one of the objects in the daughter's room appears on her shirt and on Beau's face. This is to make it seem as though Beau woke up in a safe haven and gives the scene a playful and childlike sense. At an hour and 21 minutes and 40 seconds, we see color psychology. In this wild and intense scene, Tony, the daughter, is trying to recruit Beau to help her revamp her dead brother's bedroom by painting the walls pink. When he refuses, she paints Beau's name on the wall in pink, and with further pressure on Beau and his insistent impartiality on the situation, Tony then drinks the blue paint. The contrast between her painting with the pink paint, then drinking the blue paint, is important because pink symbolizes Tony, while blue represents her brother. Her drinking the blue paint is anticipation towards her eventual premature demise, similar to her brother, which is what happens, obviously, after she drinks the paint. At an hour, 52 minutes, and 36 seconds, we see an example of the color palette. In this scene, we are recanting the time when Beau was younger and his mom was telling him about how he's basically cursed because of his father. Red, purple, and green alternating lights from his nightlight are showing up on his mother's face while everything else is dark, along with the fact that red and green are complementary colors. This makes the colors on screen seem more intense, with red symbolizing nostalgia and intimacy, and purple and green representing detachment and authenticity. These colors are important because of the gravity of the situation, and it shows that Beau might be in danger if he tries to follow the path of his father. Now we're on to visualization and perspective, time, and motion. At 52 minutes and 38 seconds, we see an example of the zoom. In this scene, Beau is grieving the loss of his mother for the first time since gaining consciousness. And this is made worse because he just got off the phone with his lawyer, basically telling him to get his act together and claim her body so that she can be buried and the funeral proceedings can begin. Beau is outside, begging for a flight back home, but the family convinces him to stay yet another night because he just got run over by a car. As they're outside talking, the camera slowly zooms in on them over the course of about 50 seconds. This is to build suspense and create a sense of isolation, as they are trying to isolate Beau from his family and seeing his mother one last time. At an hour, 37 minutes, and 14 seconds, we see an example of stop motion, which I thought was really interesting. This scene is where things in the movie become extremely trippy and a little confusing, so please try to stay with me as I attempt to explain this. There are about 9 minutes of stop motion animation of a play that Beau was watching in the forest after he ran away from the family he was staying with. The play kind of breaks the fourth wall a bit when it starts to become a play about Beau and the rest of his life after he runs away from the family, but it turns into a tragedy as Beau in the story loses his family forever and grows old. The stop motion animation is really well done and creative. It switches from 2D to 3D seamlessly, and it looks like it came straight out of a children's storybook. At an hour, 58 minutes, and 10 seconds, we see a whip pan. Beau's estranged father, who he's never met before, shows up to the play, and about 30 seconds later, it seems like a bomb goes off and decimates the little forest town. Directly after the supposed bomb goes off, there is a shot of Beau standing in shock among the destruction, and the camera whip pans quickly over to where the shots were fired, and walking among the rubble is the aforementioned family's dead son's army friend, I'm sorry if that's confusing, hunting for Beau. The purpose of the whip pan is to cover a cut between the shot of Beau looking shocked, post hearing the bomb, and the man among the destruction with a gun pointed at Beau. Beau then runs away and is sent on his journey back home. And the last one is going to be lighting. At 22 minutes and 31 seconds, we see a slow fall off. At this time, Beau is living in a dangerous apartment where homeless people and drug addicts hang out in his apartment complex and on the street. In this scene, Beau has to make it outside, and there's a long shot of the hallway leading up to the door of the apartment building where there is a light coming from the glass door and windows. But it falls off as the light reaches the other side of the room where the elevator is. This makes the scene look more realistic and natural. At an hour and 12 minutes and 10 seconds, we see cameo lighting. Beau is reminiscing about his mother, talking about relationships as she was laying down next to him, and he looks out of the window at the moon. The moonlight in both the memory and his real life illuminates him as the camera slowly transitions over to Beau in present time and reveals just Beau, lit by the moonlight from a circular window. This effect creates cameo lighting due to just Beau being lit by the moonlight, and contributes to the scene by creating a dramatic effect from the recollection of his mother talking coupled with the cameo lighting. At 2 hours, 17 minutes, and 50 seconds, we see soft lighting. Beau's ex shows up to his mother's house a little too late after his mother's funeral wake, and for some reason, they get a little busy in the bedroom. This is illuminated with soft lighting to highlight the intimacy and quote unquote romance, because you have to watch the movie to understand, of the moment.